You are tuned into episode 43 of Excuse Me, I'm Speaking. This podcast is being brought to you by yours truly. You can call me Twinkle, call me SheIsTwinkle, or call me Antoinette. As long as you're calling my name, that's all that matters to me. On this 43rd episode, I am stressed. The fact that the election is coming up, all of the things that I am seeing in these different rallies, the different stories I'm hearing about how women around the world have been affected, it is heartbreaking. And the fact that the race is so close is frightening to me. Now, I'm going to talk about the hard-hitting topic, and that is abortion. This has been an ongoing issue for years. Abortion is not simply pro-choice and pro-life. There are different reasons why a woman would need to have the medical procedure of an abortion, such as a miscarriage. There are also women out there that have stillbirths. There are instances of incest. There are instances of the R word happening. It rhymes with tape. I'm saying this because of YouTube. There are instances of major abnormalities in which the fetus would not survive outside of the womb, or it would only survive for a very short period of time.
There are good reasons why so many women and physicians are horrified by what's happened since Donald Trump's justices overturned Roe v. Wade. Just this week, a major medical journal reported that after Roe was overturned, infant mortality in this country rose, in large part because women are being forced to carry fetuses that won't survive to term. One woman spent 22 days in jail on murder charges after she miscarried in her own bathroom. We are seeing doctors unsure if they can treat ectopic pregnancies. Doctors being told they can't treat a woman until she becomes so close to death that only a life of the mother exception will allow them to act. So just imagine the profound effects for all of us if Donald Trump wins this election.
There are so many different situations and reasons as to why a woman would have to undergo this procedure. And so for me to watch even the Texas rally and the stories I heard at that rally in the state of Texas.
Ryan Hamilton, who is here tonight, his wife was denied treatment at the hospital for a miscarriage. They got home, he found her bleeding and unconscious. He dressed her, put her in a car, packed up their 9-month-old child, and drove to a different emergency room where doctors told them she could have died. Ryan didn't want this. Let's be clear. And the men across America, this needs to be said, men across America do not want to see their daughters and wives and sisters and mothers put at risk because their rights have been taken.
The woman has to be literally near death. So when I hear people being interviewed and they're asked why they're not going to vote for Kamala, and they say it is their religious moral beliefs because they want to preserve life, they want to protect the children. Okay, but what about the women? There have been instances where women did not survive because they were denied. The doctors were actually frightened to go forward with this procedure because those doctors could be prosecuted.
Great about what happened to women like Kate Cox, who was heartbroken to learn her much wanted pregnancy was not viable, heartbroken when her doctors told her if she remained pregnant, she would be risking her own life or her ability to have children in the future. But the Attorney General of Texas threatened if Kate's doctors helped terminate her pregnancy, they would be criminally prosecuted. So Kate was forced to flee the state to get the care she needed. In Louisiana, Caitlin Joshua was turned away from not one, but 2 emergency rooms while miscarrying. She was bleeding. She was in pain. But because of a Trump abortion ban, doctors would not treat her. Because if they did, they would have faced 15 years in prison. Caitlin had to go home where she went through the pain of a miscarriage for more than a month, and trying the whole time to hide her pain from her 4-year-old daughter. We know that women have died because of Trump abortion bans. Here today is Shanette Williams, the mother of Amber Nicole Thurman. I promised her mother I would speak her name. A vibrant 28-year-old mother of a 6-year-old son who died a preventable death because of Georgia's abortion ban. Now, Shanette and her family are courageously sharing Amber's story to make sure we all remember her as more than a statistic, so that we remember Amber was a daughter, a sister, a mother, and that she was loved, and that she should be alive today.
So you're telling doctors not to fully care for their patients, not to do their job. That is frustrating to me. Now let me get to the religious arguments on this, because I've said on my YouTube channel as well as my podcast a million times before, I am a Christian woman, proud of it. Let me put this out there. This is a presidential election for the United States of America. This is not an election for all of the churches of America. Also, all of the churches of America are not Christian churches. America is full of several different religious beliefs, morals, and ideas. In Christianity, if you do read your Bible for yourself, God gives us free will to choose to follow him. One thing that my pastor says that I absolutely love, he says, you cannot legislate holiness. Jesus did not legislate holiness, but you can actually build relationships with people, get to know people, understand them, and then that will open up the door for discipleship. That is what Jesus did. He cared for the sick. He cared for the needy, the hungry. He healed the sick. He did all of these different things and showed love and generosity. He led by example. His example was the reason why people looked at him differently, and they began to grow curious about who he was and his beliefs. That's when their minds and ears and eyes and hearts were more open to actually receive from him. So the fact that people are basing this decision off of, oh, well, it's a God thing. No, it is not. If you are going for candidates that are not about love, they are actually about bigotry and hate, just like Trump's rally. Trump had a comedian, which I don't even know the comedian's name, but he had a lineup of people that came up before him. And one of them was a comedian. And the comedian did the most vulgar, offensive, racist jokes that has struck a nerve with people around the world.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Heck yeah, it's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? I'm just kidding, that's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun, we carved watermelons together. And these Latinos, they love making babies too, just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country.
That was an October surprise that people were not expecting. He compared Puerto Rico to garbage, and Puerto Rico is a part of the United States. Now, one thing I can say is that when Trump got up to take his place in front of the thousands of people that were in Madison Square Garden where this was taking place, he did not separate himself from what the comedian said. I think that that was horrible for him to have vetted that comedian. And if you did know his jokes beforehand and you still allowed that, that is insane, especially when it's this close to the election and you need a bunch of those Puerto Ricans, since they are U.S. citizens, you need them to vote for you. Barack Obama said something in his speech, because I also listened to several of his speeches. He's been on the campaign trail as well. In his speech, he said,
the man holds this big rally at Madison Square Garden. One guy called Puerto Rico Quote, an island of garbage. Now, these are fellow citizens he's talking about. Here in Philadelphia, they are your neighbors. They are your friends. They are your co-workers. Here's a good rule. If somebody does not respect you, if somebody does not see you as fellow citizens with equal claims to opportunity, to the pursuit of happiness, to the American dream, you should not vote for them.
The chant that often comes up at the DNC rallies are, "We're not going back." When people think of going back, I wonder how far back do they think? Do they think we're not going back 4 years, 8 years, to the 90s, to the 80s? Going back could go back as far as, okay, well, we want to take away women's reproductive rights. Wasn't there not a time where women weren't allowed to vote at all? Women weren't allowed to work? You would think that those should be basic human rights. But women did not always have that right. So how far back are people willing to go to make America great again? These are things to think about. There were times where a Black person was not even considered a full person. What were Black people considered? 3/5 of a person? Trump has talked about the idea of terminating the Constitution. If that does not frighten you, if that does not scream danger, I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I have to get off the subject, but I needed to talk about it because it is infuriating to me. And please, please vote. I will always say continue to do your research, but vote. And if you are a Christian, don't look at 2 Christian values, look at all of them. Now, last but not least, I gotta get on to something like more positive. It is October, and so I hadn't mentioned it in my last podcast, so I have to mention it in this one. Please, I know it's the end of October, so if you're not able to get your mammogram this month, get it before the year ends. Women out there, especially if you have a history of it in your family, as I do. Both my mother and my grandmother are breast cancer survivors. My mother was actually diagnosed around my age now. So I've been getting this done since I was a few days shy of 30. I am now 34. If you have a history of it, submit it to insurance. Your insurance will pay for it. They will cover yearly mammograms. It is best to take preventative measures. My preventative measure is making sure that I go to my breast cancer prevention specialist annually, that I get my mammogram annually. And if you're a person with dense breast tissue, then you should also get the breast MRI because that gives a more graphic, detailed view of what is going on inside. So actually, my doctor clarified for me today because I asked her again, what is density in breast tissue? What is that? And then she specifically said it could be related to genetics, but also it is the ratio between like your regular breast tissue and how much fat is in your breast. And that could have occurred through puberty or just throughout life. Okay. Yeah, go get the pamphlets, read all about it, tell people about it. I do this because I also have 2 young daughters. And if they see me do it regularly, then when they get older, it will prompt them to do it regularly because their mommy did it like it was nothing and it wasn't scary to me. And also, I say this with any and every type of cancer, especially if you have a history of it in your family, any type of cancer. Early detection is the best detection. So do not be scared of these appointments. I would rather be scared of the unknown, not knowing and being hit out of nowhere. And there was no way to prepare for this or to even treat it. So that's my PSA for today. And last but not least, I did wear my Chiefs sweatshirt just so I can end on a high note. Y'all, we got a lot of haters out there, but the Chiefs are still 7-0, undefeated. Even since our playoffs streak and run and win of the Super Bowl, I think we really could do this. We could be three-peat even with all of our injuries. So I'm super excited about that. But anywho, yeah, I know this was a serious podcast episode today, but I had to come out here and I had to say it. I had to put it out there. Please make sure you're registered to vote. Go vote early. Go vote on the day of, whatever fits your schedule, but just make sure that you use your voice by voting. Don't complain about it and then not do nothing about it. Go exercise your right to vote. All right. So that was my quote of the day for today. But beyond all of that, please be sure to tune in for the next episode of Excuse Me, I'm Speaking. Follow me on YouTube as SheIsTwinkle. Follow me on Instagram as SheIsTwinkle1. And until next time, I love you all. Go and vote. Bye.